The police car was already parked outside when Ethan realized this wasn't a conversation. Red and blue lights washed over the living room walls, turning the family photos into something ugly and unreal. His backpack lay open on the floor. Someone had already decided what he was allowed to take. "You're 18 today," his stepfather said, calm and precise, like he was reading terms and conditions. "This isn't a charity. You're an adult now. Get out." Ethan looked at the calendar on the fridge. His birthday was circled in red. "I just need a few weeks," Ethan said. "I'm enrolled. I start community college next month. I can work." The man cut him off with a short laugh. "Welcome to real life. Nobody cares." The officer by the door shifted his weight, hand resting near his belt. Not threatening, just present. Just enough to make it clear how this would end. Ethan turned to his mother. She stood in the kitchen doorway, gripping a dish towel so hard her knuckles were white. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't move, didn't speak. Silence was her answer. "If you don't leave voluntarily," the stepfather continued, "we'll make it official. Trespassing. You want that on your record before college even starts." Rain hit the roof like fists. Ethan zipped his backpack with shaking hands. Clothes. Charger. An old hoodie. That was it. 18 years reduced to carry-on size. At the door, he stopped. "I'll remember this," he said quietly. The stepfather smiled. "You won't survive long enough to matter." The door closed behind him. Outside, the rain soaked through his clothes in seconds. The police car drove away. The house stayed warm and bright, like he had never existed inside it. Ethan walked until his legs burned. He ended up under a bus stop roof, staring at passing headlights, phone battery at 4%, bank account at $12. At midnight, his phone buzzed once. A generic text from his bank, low balance alert. At 18, on his birthday, Ethan learned a simple American rule. If you're broke, you're disposable. By morning, Ethan smelled like wet concrete and exhaustion. The bus stop emptied as commuters rushed past him, eyes forward, headphones in, pretending he wasn't there. In America, you could disappear in public and no one would notice. He checked his phone. No missed calls. No messages. At a downtown shelter, the line wrapped around the building. A tired woman at the desk glanced at his ID. 18, she said. She shook her head. Youth program is full. Adult shelter is 18 plus, but we're over capacity. Come back next week. Next week sounded like a joke. He walked to the community college campus, hoping the place that had promised him a future would at least offer a chair and a bathroom. He sat in the student center, charging his phone, pretending he belonged. Students laughed, complained about tuition, about parents, about roommates. Ethan opened his bank app again. $11.47. He applied for jobs on a cracked laptop in the library, warehouse, fast food, night shifts, anything. Most applications ended the same way. We regret to inform you. By evening, one manager finally looked at him. You got an address? The man asked. No. Ethan said honestly. The manager leaned back. Then you're a liability. That night, Ethan slept in his car, an old sedan he'd bought with summer savings. At 3 a.m., flashing lights woke him. Parking enforcement. The ticket cost more than he had in his account. By day 3, hunger stopped feeling sharp and started feeling dull. By day 5, his phone was full of automated messages. Late fees, overdraft warnings, credit card offers he was desperate enough to consider. He learned fast how the system worked. If you had money, mistakes were temporary. If you didn't, mistakes became records. One evening, sitting in his car, Ethan stared at the college acceptance email still saved on his phone. He could still try. Loans, debt, a future paid for with interest. Or he could quit now and survive. His hands shook as he opened a new credit card application. At 18, Ethan signed his name, not for opportunity, but for permission to stay alive. The approval came in less than 30 seconds. Congratulations. You're approved for $1,000. Ethan stared at the screen, a bitter laugh escaping his throat. That was how easy it was to sell the future of an 18-year-old who had nothing left to lose. He used the card for gas, for cheap food, for textbooks he still pretended he'd need. Community college felt like a lie he told himself every morning. He sat in class exhausted, clothes smelling faintly of car upholstery and cold air. He kept his head down, afraid someone would ask where he lived. By 19, the balance was maxed out. Interest grew faster than his paycheck from the warehouse. Night shifts blurred into mornings. His hands cracked from lifting boxes. His back never fully stopped hurting. That's when Marcus showed up. Marcus was older, confident. He talked about flipping electronics, online reselling, easy money. He called Ethan bro and said things like we're building something. For the first time since the bus stop, Ethan believed someone saw him. They used Ethan's credit, Ethan's name, Ethan's risk. When the packages never arrived and the account was frozen, Marcus disappeared. Phone disconnected. Social media gone. The bank didn't care about stories. Late fees stacked. Interest spiked. Collectors started calling. This call is an attempt to collect a debt, the voice said, again and again, like a sentence. Ethan stopped answering. He stopped opening mail. One night, sitting in his car outside a closed grocery store, Ethan scrolled through old photos. His mother, the house, a version of himself that still believed in family. He typed a message he never sent. I'll do anything. I just need a place to sleep. He deleted it. Pride was the last thing he owned. At 20, Ethan understood something no class had taught him. Debt doesn't just trap your money. It traps your choices. And if he stayed on this path, the system wouldn't need to destroy him. He was doing it himself. By 21, Ethan stopped counting hours. 16-hour shifts became normal. Warehouse at night. Gig work during the day. Delivery apps that paid just enough to keep him exhausted and desperate. Coffee replaced meals. Painkillers replaced sleep. His body started warning him before his mind did. Hands shaking while scanning boxes. Vision narrowing during late-night drives. A constant pressure behind his eyes, like something was trying to break out. One night, it finally did. Ethan collapsed between loading docks, concrete biting into his cheek. Sirens again. Always sirens when life reached its lowest point. In the ER, a nurse asked him who to call. No one, he said. Dehydration. Severe exhaustion. Stress-induced collapse. The doctor told him he was young, lucky, and stupid. You keep this up, the doctor said, and your body will quit before your debt's due. Ethan laughed weakly. When he got discharged, he sat in his car, hospital bracelet still on his wrist, staring at the steering wheel. Something in him hardened. Working harder wasn't saving him. Surviving wasn't enough. He started learning at night instead of sleeping. Sales funnels. Online services. Automation. Not dreams, systems. Things that didn't care if you were tired. He launched something small. Ugly. Barely functional. The first week, nothing happened. The second week, he made a mistake that wiped out what little money he had left. Rent he couldn't pay. Gas he couldn't buy. Ethan sat on the curb at 2 a.m., head in his hands, seriously considering calling his stepfather. That's when his phone buzzed. Payment received, $47. Not much, but it was real. For the first time, the system paid him instead of punishing him. Ethan looked up at the empty street and whispered, again. By 22, Ethan's small project had grown into something people actually paid for. Not big, not flashy, but steady, predictable, reliable, and most importantly, under his control. He didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no cheers, just a quiet satisfaction in knowing that the world owed him nothing, and he was finally taking it anyway. From the warehouse to the laptop, he had built himself a system that didn't care if he slept or starved. Customers were anonymous. Payments were automatic. Mistakes cost him money, but never dignity. He started checking old addresses and public records. That house, his childhood, the place where laughter turned into silence, warmth into abandonment. The foreclosure notice was real. The bank had begun sending letters. The stepfather's small business was failing. The mother was fraying at the edges. He watched from afar, invisible but present. Each update he read felt like a note in a symphony written just for him. Debt collectors, missed payments, eviction notices. Every one of them made him smile quietly. He didn't gloat. He didn't call. He didn't need to. He opened the bank portal of his shell company, typed in the address of his old home, clicked through the forms. A few signatures. Wire transfer. Done. He had bought the house. Anonymously. Coldly. Calculated. Sitting back in his chair, Ethan looked at the transaction confirmation. No emotions. No joy. Only power. The same house that had thrown him into the rain, the same house where his mother had watched silently, would now belong to him. And they had no idea. Outside, life went on. Kids rode bikes past the old fence. Neighbors walked dogs. The air smelled like rain and gasoline. Ethan sipped cheap coffee and typed a note in his journal. Some houses are not meant to be lived in again. They are meant to be owned. Tomorrow, they would receive the letter. Tomorrow, everything would change. The letter arrived mid-morning. White envelope, corporate logo stamped in the corner, signature line at the bottom. The stepfather picked it up first, glancing at the mail like it was a minor inconvenience. "Another bill," he muttered, tossing it on the kitchen counter. But when he opened it, the words hit him like a bullet. Property under new ownership. Immediate action required. He read it twice. Then again. "You're kidding me," he hissed, voice rising. This can't be real." His mother froze, hand over her mouth. Something in her eyes betrayed fear. The same fear she'd never shown when Ethan was kicked out. Outside, neighbors continued their routine. Dogs barked. Lawnmowers roared. The world hadn't noticed anything, but inside, everything had shifted. The stepfather grabbed his phone. Calls made. Friends called. Lawyers called. Panic started creeping in. He couldn't reach the bank. No one answered. The paperwork was flawless. Signed. Complete. Irrevocable. Ethan watched from a coffee shop 2 blocks away, hood up, phone in hand. He saw them pace, shout, slam doors. He saw the fear that years of money and status hadn't bought them. He didn't intervene. He didn't make a call. He just observed. There was no satisfaction yet. This was only the beginning. Because tomorrow, he would walk through the front door. Not as the boy they threw out. Not as the invisible kid who slept under bus stop roofs. But as the owner. And by the time they realized it, it would already be too late. The day came quietly, like any other. Except it wasn't. The stepfather paced the living room, muttering, phone clutched in his hand. The mother hovered near the hallway, wringing her hands, eyes darting toward the front door every few seconds. Anxiety made them jittery, sharp, like predators sensing danger too late. The doorbell rang. Silence. The stepfather froze, unsure whether to answer. His hands shook, a rare sight, one Ethan had seen only in his dreams of revenge. "I'll get it," his mother whispered, and moved toward the door. She opened it. Ethan stood there, hoodie up, posture relaxed, eyes cold. Nothing about him suggested the boy they had thrown out. He wasn't angry. He wasn't begging. He wasn't pleading. He simply was. Recognition flashed. Her lips parted. His stepfather's face went pale, then red, then drained entirely of color. "You," the man stammered. "You're how?" Ethan stepped inside without invitation. Documents in hand. Signature lines highlighted. Proof of ownership. Each page heavier than the rain-soaked nights he had endured. "I own this house," Ethan said calmly. "Legally, irrevocably. The paperwork is complete. You have 30 days to vacate, or the law will enforce it." Silence fell. The stepfather opened his mouth. No words. His voice, once commanding, failed him. The mother's hand shook as she reached for the counter, eyes darting between them. Fear, guilt, shame, all mirrored in Ethan's gaze. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just stood there. The invisible boy, the abandoned child, had returned. And he was no longer a boy. The house had grown eerily quiet. Ethan walked slowly through the living room, fingers brushing over the furniture he had once taken for granted. Nothing had changed, yet everything was different. The smell of old wood, the faint scent of coffee, even the sunlight through the blinds. All of it now belonged to him. The stepfather hovered near the doorway, jaw tight. Words formed, then disappeared. Every attempt to speak fell flat. His authority, once absolute, dissolved with a single signature. Ethan stopped and looked at him. "No yelling," he said quietly. "No threats. This isn't about anger. This is about facts." The man's hands curled into fists. You're not the same kid." Ethan's eyes were cold. "I haven't been a kid for a long time. You'll understand that soon enough." His mother stood behind him, trembling. Her voice cracked. "Ethan, I didn't know." He nodded. "Not forgiveness. Not anger. Just acknowledgement." "I know." The room held its breath. The power had shifted completely. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't demand obedience. His presence alone was enough to bend the room to his will. For 10 years, they had treated him like nothing. Tonight, their fear confirmed what he already knew. He was no longer invisible. He was untouchable. And yet, he didn't gloat. He didn't laugh. He simply waited for the final piece to fall into place. Because owning the house was just the beginning. The eviction notice arrived 2 days later. The stepfather ripped it open, scanning the words with a growing panic. The bank's lawyers had done their job flawlessly. There was no loophole, no delay, no escape. For the first time in his life, he felt powerless. "I can't believe this," he muttered, pacing the living room. Every step echoed against the walls that had once been his kingdom. His mother stood in the hallway, clutching her chest. Tears streamed down her face, but her eyes were fixed on Ethan. Not pleading, not angry, just aware. Ethan handed her an envelope. "Take this," he said quietly. "It's enough to start over. Nothing more." She opened it. Cash, carefully counted. Enough to pay rent, bills, maybe even school for a while. Relief mingled with guilt. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan nodded once. That was all. Then he turned to the stepfather. "This isn't personal. I didn't come back to hurt anyone. I came back to finish what you started. You threw me out. You made your choice. Now you live with yours. No shouting. No begging. No apologies accepted. Just cold, simple justice." The movers arrived. Boxes were packed. Furniture loaded. Every item taken. Every room emptied. The stepfather's face was red with anger. The mother refused to watch, retreating to the car, avoiding eye contact. Ethan stayed inside, watching as the home emptied. The house had been theirs once, but now it was his. Every echo of laughter, every memory of fear and neglect, he claimed them all. And when the moving van drove away, leaving only silence behind, Ethan finally felt it. Not victory, not joy, not satisfaction, just quiet. The kind of quiet that only comes when everything you've ever wanted is finally yours, and it changes nothing inside. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, dust motes dancing in the light. Ethan stood in the center of the living room, alone. The house was silent, too silent. Every wall, every floorboard, every shadow, now his. But it felt empty. He walked slowly through each room, touching surfaces he once longed for. Memories clung to the air like cobwebs. The laughter that had never truly existed. The warmth that had never been real. The echoes of a childhood stolen. He opened the front door one last time and looked at the street. Neighbors walked dogs. Kids laughed on bikes. Life continued outside, indifferent to the battles fought within these walls. The stepfather was gone. The mother had fled with the envelope of money. The house was his, legally, irrevocably, completely. And yet, for the first time in a decade, Ethan understood something he hadn't in all those nights of rain, hunger, and pain. Owning what broke you doesn't heal you. It doesn't make the past disappear. It doesn't bring back the years they took. He closed the door, locked it, took a deep breath. Some houses aren't meant to be lived in again. Some victories are hollow. Ethan walked away, not angry, not bitter, not triumphant, just free. Because in the end, surviving was the only revenge that mattered. In America, nobody saves you. But sometimes, you survive long enough to own what broke you.